plaintiff's attorneys, and the prosecutors are present as well. We are outside the presence of the jury. All right, would counsel please approach? By the way, Ms. Pearson, did you modify P-TR-286 in accordance with my comments at the bench?
Yes, Your Honor, we took off the packaging.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's bring the jury in, please. Welcome back, members of the jury. Be seated, everyone. Right before the break, Ms. Pearson was in the middle of her direct examination of Nicholas John Freeman Carroll. Actually, yeah, it was the crime scene investigator. Okay, you may proceed with the rest of your direct examination, Ms. Pearson, and sir, I will inform you that you are still under oath, okay? Great. Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2789, 2868, 2864, and People's Exhibits 216, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. I'll take those other ones from you. Do you recognize those photographs as depicting what you observed in the theater? And you recognize exhibits 216 through 221 as items that you collected?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of People's Exhibits 2789, 2868, 2864, and 216 through 221.
Any objection? Without objection, P-TR-2789, 2868, 2864, and 216 through 221 inclusive are admitted and may be published.
Could I have People's Exhibit 2789, please? And I think we had last finished with placard number 20. What placards do we now see on this photograph?
We now see 21, 22, 23, and 24 with their items of evidence. You can also see placard 25, but the item it is marking is not in the photograph.
Are we still in the same area of the theater, on the floor, between the screen and the first row of seats?
Yes.
And People's Exhibits 216, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21, what are those items?
These are fired .223 cartridge cases.
Are they the items that were found at placards that we see in this photograph?
Correct.
Could I also have People's Exhibit 2868? Did we see a fraction of placard 25 in the last photograph as well?
Yes.
Is that also a 223 spent casing?
Correct.
And People's Exhibit 2864? Is that placard 26?
Yes.
And is that People's Exhibit 221?
Yes.
Is that also a spent 223 casing?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I am next, I would next like Exhibits 222 through 233. also hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2790, 2869, 2870, and 2871.
Did you say 2790, 2868, 2870, and 2871?
Yes, Your Honor.
I show that 2868 was already admitted. Am I wrong about that?
So I said 2790, 2869.
Oh, okay, you said 68.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
So it's 2790.
2869, 2870, and 2871.
All right, thank you.
Do the photographs that I have handed you, as well as the exhibits 222 to 233, all reflect evidence that you collected in the theater and what you observed in the theater in July of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 2789. Wait a minute, sorry, I already did those. 2790, 2869, 2870, 2871, and People's Exhibits 222 through 233 inclusive.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, P-TR-2790, 2869, 2870, 2871, and 222 through 233 exclusive are admitted and may be published.
Could I have 2790, please? And it's a little difficult to see in this photograph, but can you tell us what placards are depicted?
Placards 27, 28, 30, 33, 36, 37, and 38 are visible.
And could I have 2869, please? What do we see in this photograph?
Placard 29, 30, 31, and there are items of evidence that they are marking.
And are both of these photographs that we've just looked at all spent 223 casings?
Yes.
2870? What are we looking at here?
This is placard 33, 36, 37, and 38.
And again, what kind of items are these?
They are fired .223 cartridge cases.
And 2871? And what is this?
This is placard 34 and 35, which are also depicting fired .223 cartridge cases.
Now, are these all in the same area that we've been talking about between the screen and the first row of seats?
Yes.
Turning to exhibits 222 to 233, what are these items? Starting first with, say, 222 to, well, just each, if you could just tell us what each one is, please.
Each one is the fired cartridge case that we have depicted in the photographs. There are placards 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38.
And are all of those physical items spent 223 casings?
Yes.
Could I next have People's Exhibits 234 to 241? I'm going to hand you photographs marked as 2872, 2792, 2875, 2876, 2877, and 2878. Have you had an opportunity to look at those photographs and those exhibits?
Yes,
Are those exhibits that you collected in the theater and in July of 2012, and are those photographs that fairly and accurately represent what you did in the theater and collected in the theater?
yes,
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of People's Exhibits 234 through 241 inclusive, as well as People's Exhibits 2872, 2792, 2875, 2876, 2877, and 2878.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-234 through 241 inclusive are admitted and may be published. Similarly, P-TR-2872 and 2792 are admitted and may be published. And P-TR-2875 through 2878 inclusive are admitted and may be published.
Could I have first People's Exhibit 2872? What placard are we looking at?
we are looking at placard 39, and it is depicting another fired .223 cartridge case.
And People's Exhibit 234, is that the item that we see in this photograph?
Yes,
And are we still in this area between the floor, on the floor between the screen and the first row of seats?
yes,
2792, please. What do we see in this photograph?
we see placards 40 and 41, which also are marking fired .223 cartridge cases.
Are Exhibit 235 and 236 the items that we see in this photograph?
Yes,
Turning next to People's Exhibit 2875. Is that placards 42 and 43?
yes,
What are those items?
fired .223 cartridge cases.
Are those the items that are also reflected in physical exhibits 237 and 238?
Yes,
People's Exhibit 2876? Placard 44?
yes,
And could you also look at People's Exhibit 239? And what is this item?
it is a fired .223 cartridge case.
People's Exhibit 2877? What is this item that we see in the photograph?
This is placard 45, and it is a fired .223 cartridge case.
And is that also People's Exhibit 240?
Yes,
And 2878, please. And what is that?
the images of placard 46 and the fired .223 cartridge case that it is marking.
And People's Exhibit 241?
241 is the fired cartridge case at placard 46.
Could I now have People's Exhibits 242 through 246? And I'm also going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2879, 2880, 2796, 2798, and 2881. And if you could take a look at both the photographs and the physical exhibits. Do you recognize those photographs and those physical exhibits as items that you collected in the theater in July of 2012 and photographs that also reflect those items?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 242 to 246 inclusive, as well as 2879, 2880, 2796, 2798, and 2881.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, 242 through 246 inclusive are admitted, and that's P-TR-242 through 246. And then P-TR-2879, 2880, 2796, 2798, and 2881 are all admitted and may be published.
Could I have 2879, please? What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is placard 47, and it is a fired 223 cartridge case.
2880, please. And what is this?
This is placard 48, and it is a fired shotgun shell.
2796. What placards do we see here?
We see placards 46 and 49. Both of them are fired 223 cartridge cases.
We also see a reflection in the, or a shadow in the center of the picture. Do you know what that is?
Yes, that is one of the seats, and the circle with the X through it that you're seeing is a cup holder.
2798, please. What are we looking at here?
These are placards 50, 52, 53, and 54, and they are all fired 223 cartridge cases.
And 2881. What is this?
This is placard 50, and it is marking a fired 223 cartridge case.
Next, turning to the exhibits, People's Exhibit 242, what is that?
A fired 223 cartridge case from placard 47.
243,
A fired shotgun shell at placard 48.
244,
A fired .223 cartridge case at placard 49.
245,
A fired cartridge case at placard 50.
246,
A fired .223 cartridge case at placard 51.
Could I have People's Exhibits 247 to 255, please? And I'm also going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibits 2883, 2882, 2884, 2885, 2886, 2887, 2888, and 2891. Are you ready?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review both the photographs and the physical exhibits?
Yes.
Are those photographs that reflect items that you collected in the theater, and are those physical items that you did in fact collect in the theater?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibits 2883, 2882, 2884, 2885, 2886, 2887, 2888, 2891, and People's Exhibits 247 through 255 inclusive.
Any objection?
Objection.
Without objection, P-TR-2882 through 2888 are admitted. That's inclusive. And then P-TR-2891 is admitted. And P-TR-247 through 255 inclusive are admitted. And all of those may be published.
Could I have People's Exhibit 2883? What are we looking at here?
This is placard 52, and it is marking a fired .223 cartridge case.
And are we still in the area on the floor between the screen and the first row of seats?
Yes.
Placard 53? Or, I'm sorry, 2882? And is this placard 53?
Yes.
And what is the item?
It is marking a fired .223 cartridge case.
2884? What is this?
This is placard 54, marking a fired .223 cartridge case.
2885, please. And what is this?
Placard 55, marking a fired .223 cartridge case.
2886? What do we see here?
Placard 56, another fired .223 cartridge case.
2887? What is this?
Placard 57, a fired .223 cartridge case.
2888? What is this?
Placard 59, a fired .223 cartridge case.
And 2891? What is this?
Placard 60, a fired .223 cartridge case.
Turning next to the physical exhibits, could you tell us what Exhibit 247 is?
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 52.
248, what is that?
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 53.
249, what is that?
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 54.
Exhibit 250,
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 55.
251,
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 56.
252,
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 57.
253,
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 58.
254,
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 59.
255,
A fired .223 cartridge case from placard 60.
Now, you indicated that you'd put down 123 placards on that day that you collected?
Correct.
The 61 through 123, they were collected by someone else, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, did you also collect magazines that were in the theater?
Yes.
Did you wait and do that till after you'd collected the other items?
Correct.
Why was that?
We noticed the gun magazines were loaded, so we were going to unload them and count the rounds of ammunition that were inside the gun magazine. So we decided we wanted to wait until all the other items of evidence were collected, and then we could go back and unload all of those and count the rounds of ammunition that were inside.
If I could have People's Exhibits 256, 57, 257, and 258. And I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibits 2949, 2771, 2858, 2953, and 2954. And if I could also have People's Exhibits 259, 260, and 261. Turning first to photographs, 2949, 2858, 2771, 2953, and 2954. Do those items fairly and accurately represent items that you collected in the theater in July of 2012?
Yes.
And the items 256 through 261 inclusive, are those items that you collected in the theater?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 256 through 261, as well as photographs 2949, 2958, 2771, 2953, and 2954.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-256 through 261 inclusive are admitted, as are P-TR-2941, 2771, 2858, 2953, and 2954, and they may be published.
Could I have 2949, please? What are we looking at in this photograph?
These are placards and items of evidence that are on the floor inside the theater near the alcove that contains the exit door.
And are two of these magazines?
Yes.
Are these magazines that are placards 8 and placard 9?
Yes.
And the items 256 through 261 are those magazines that were collected at these placards, at placard 8 and placard 9?
Yes.
Could I have People's Exhibit 2858, please? What do we see in this photograph?
This is a close-up image of placard 8 and placard 9 and the gun magazines located at those placards.
Now, are there also spent shotgun shells in that photograph?
Yes.
Now, 8 and 9 look like they're joined together. Are they two separate items?
They are two separate items.
We've been talking a lot about spent magazine, about spent casings, spent shells. Are these magazines loaded with live ammo?
Yes, they are loaded with live ammunition that is unfired and is ready to be fired.
2771, please. What do we see in this photograph?
This is another image of the gun magazines.
Is the shotgun at the top of the photograph?
Yes, the top center is the butt of the rifle or the shotgun.
2053, please. I'm sorry, 2953. What are we looking at in this photograph?
2953 is a photograph of the gun magazine at placard 8. It has been unloaded and all the unfired rounds of ammunition that were located in the gun magazine are now laid next to it.
How many rounds were in this magazine?
There were 39.
And if you could show us People's Exhibits 256, 257, and 258, could hold those up. What are those items?
These are the items depicted in the photograph. Exhibit 256 is the gun magazine, and exhibits 257 and 258 are the live rounds of ammunition removed from the gun magazine.
And are they 257 and 258 in two separate envelopes? Why?
They are separated because they had different head stamps stamped on the bottom of the cartridge case. They were LC11 and LC12. They are all 223 rounds of ammunition, though.
Thank you. And could I have People's Exhibit 2954? What do we see in this photograph?
This is the gun magazine located at placard 9, and all of the live rounds unfired have been removed from the gun magazine and are next to it.
How many rounds were in this magazine?
38.
And are these 223 rounds?
Yes.
If you could show us exhibits 279, or I'm sorry, 259, 260, and 261. And what are these exhibits in relationship to what's in this photograph?
This is the gun magazine and the live rounds removed from the gun magazine. Exhibit 259 is the magazine. 260 and 261 are the live cartridges.
Now, if you could step down again and show us where in the theater these magazines at placard 8 and 9 were collected.
The gun magazines at placard 8 and 9 were removed from this general area right here. inside the theater near the alcove.
On the right side of the theater.
Correct. As if you're facing the screen, it's on the right side of the theater on the floor.
Could I have People's Exhibits 262, 263, and 264? And I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibits 2814, 2837, 2918, and 2955. Do you recognize those photographs and the items that I've handed you as items that you collected in the theater and photographs that depict those items?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 2814, 2837, 2918, and 2955.
Any objection? Yes, Madam. Yes. Could I see those pictures, please?
Yes.
here you go, sir. The objection is overruled. And so, overruling the objection, P-TR-2814, 2837, 2918, and 2955 are admitted.
As well as, Your Honor, 262 through 264?
I don't think you moved the admission of 262 through 264. Are you moving?
I am, Your Honor.
Any objection to the admission of 262 through 264?
Objection.
All right, P-TR-262 through 264 inclusive are admitted, and to the extent that there's an objection, it is overruled for the reason stated at the bench.
Could I have People's Exhibit 2814, please? What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is a photograph looking down the hallway that exits the theater. If you are facing the screen, it's on the right side of the theater, same wall as the alcove that we've been talking about.
2837? What do we see in this photograph?
This is a closer image in the hallway that I just mentioned, and there are placards marking evidence.
Were there magazines located in this hallway?
Yes.
And People's Exhibit 2918? What are we looking at here?
This is placard 89, and there is a loaded rifle magazine.
2955, please. What are we looking at here?
This is a photograph of the magazine at placard 89, and it has been unloaded, and the unfired live rounds of ammunition are next to the gun magazine.
How many rounds were in this magazine?
37.
Are these all 223 rounds?
Yes,
And these are live rounds?
correct.
And if you could show us on People's Exhibits 262, 263, and 264, how that relates to these photographs.
Exhibit 262 is the gun magazine. Exhibits 263 and 264 are the unfired live rounds of ammunition.
And if I could next have People's Exhibits 265, 266, and 267, and I will hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 28, 28, and 2957. Do you recognize People's Exhibits 28, 28, and 2957, as well as 268 or as 265 through 267 as items that you collected at the theater and that were photographed in July of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibits 265, 266, 267, and 28, 28, and 2957.
Any objection?
Into 2957 is cumulative to the other exhibits, but otherwise no further objection.
All right, the objection to P-TR-2957 is overruled based on my last ruling here at the bench, and so it is admitted and may be published. P-TR-265, 266, 267, and 2828 are admitted without objection and may be published.
Could I have People's Exhibit 28, 28, please? What are we looking at in this photograph?
At placard 90, we see a drum-style gun magazine, and there's several other placards marked with loose, live, unfired cartridge cases.
And 2957, please? What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the drum-style gun magazine that was located at placard 90, and it has been disassembled, and the live rounds of ammunition have been removed and are next to the drum magazine.
What is the item that is just to the right of the drum magazine?
The rectangular black item is how that drum-style magazine connects to the firearm. The two black and silver pieces next to it that appear to be live rounds of ammunition are actually just pieces of metal that are located inside the drum that help the drum feed the rounds of ammunition to the firearm. And then you have a bracket and a couple screws next to it.
How many rounds of ammunition were found in this magazine?
26.
And if you could hold up People's Exhibits 265, 266, and 267 and show us what we're looking at there.
Exhibit 265 is the drum magazine. 266 and 267 are the live unfired cartridges removed from the magazine.
Thank you. Do you know how many rounds that kind of magazine holds?
I do not know for certain, but I've heard it's up near.
And I'm not going to ask you what you've heard, just if you know.
The objection is sustained.
Could I next have People's Exhibits 268, 269, 270, 271, 72, 73, 74, and 75? And I'm also going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2922, 2958, 2929, 2959, 2926, and 2960. Are these items that you collected in the theater in July of 2012?
Yes.
And are these photographs that depict these items that you observed in the theater?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 268 through 275 inclusive, and 2922, 2925, 2926, 2958, 2959, and 2960.
Ms. Pearson, my notes reflect that what you said you were going to approach was 2922, 2958, 2929, 2959, 2926, and 2960. I don't have 2925 as one of the ones you had mentioned that you were going to approach with.
I apologize, Your Honor. That was one that should have been included.
All right, so all of the ones that I mentioned plus 2925?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Objection to 2958, 2959, and 2960 is cumulative. No further objection.
All right, and is it based on the same grounds that you stated at the bench? All right, for the reasons I stated at the bench, the objection is overruled as to P-TAR-2958, 2959, and 2960. So all three of those are admitted and may be published. Without objection, P-TR-268 through 275 inclusive are admitted without objection and may be published, and P-TR-2922, 2929, 2926, and 2925 are admitted without objection and may be published.
Your Honor, I may have misheard. 2922, 2925, 2926, and then the 29s, 58, 59, and 60. Did I read you a wrong number?
Well, what I wrote down based on what you said is 2922, 2958, 2929, 2959, 2926, 2960, and 2925.
There is no 2929.
Okay. So you must have said 2925 when, or 2929 when you meant to say 2925, and that.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So 2929 is not among the pictures being introduced right now. All right. You may proceed.
Could I have 2922, please? What do we see in this photograph?
In this photograph, you can see placard 98, and it is marking a loaded handgun magazine.
Where is this in the theater?
This is also in the hallway by the other loaded gun magazines.
Could I have 2925, please? And what are we looking at here?
2925 is placard 101, and it is depicting a loaded gun magazine.
2926, please. What do we see here?
This is placard 102, and there is also a loaded gun magazine at placard 102.
Turning next to to 2958. What is in this photograph?
This is the loaded handgun magazine that was at placard 98. It has been unloaded, and there are 15 live rounds of ammunition next to it.
And could you hold up, please, People's Exhibits 268 and 269?
Exhibit 268 is the gun magazine, and Exhibit 269 are the live rounds removed from the gun magazine.
Could I have People's Exhibit 259, 2959, please? What is this showing?
2959 depicts the gun magazine at placard 101 and it shows it's been unloaded and shows the live cartridges next to it.
How many rounds were in this magazine?
35.
And could you show us People's Exhibits 270, 271, and 272?
Exhibit 270 is the gun magazine. 271 and 272 are the live rounds of ammunition that were removed from the gun magazine.
And could I have People's Exhibit 2960? What do we see in this photograph?
2960 is the gun magazine from placard 102 and the live rounds removed from the gun magazine.
How many rounds were in this magazine?
There were 31.
And could you show us People's Exhibits 273, 274, and 275?
Exhibit 273 is the gun magazine. 274 and 275 are the live rounds removed from the gun magazine.
Thank you. And could you show us where this set of magazines was on the model? And we're talking about placards 89, 98, 101, 102.
The previously discussed items of evidence were located in the hallway as you exit the theater, facing the screen on the right side, right in this area. Can you guys see that over there? Okay.
We'll pull this around. You could point that out again, please. Hallway that's on the right, hallway facing us. Now, after you had collected all of the spent casings in the theater, including the casings that Maria Petalina ultimately collected, did you determine how many spent shotgun shells there were in the theater?
Yes.
How many were there?
There were 6 spent shotgun shells.
Did you determine how many spent 223 rounds there were in the theater?
Yes.
How many were there?
There were 65 spent 223 cartridge cases.
Did you determine how many spent .40 caliber casings there were in the theater?
Yes.
How many?
There were 5 spent .40 caliber cartridge cases.
Did you also count up all of the live ammunition that you found in the theater?
Yes.
How many live rounds of .223 ammo did you find in the theater?
There were 218 live rounds of .223.
Did you find live .40 caliber ammunition in the theater?
Yes.
How much?
6.
.40 caliber, do you call 16?
Yes, there were 16.
And .40 caliber rounds would be used in a handgun?
Correct.
Did you also find miscellaneous shot pellets in the theater?
Yes.
Are shot pellets really small?
Yes, in this case they were.
Or these shot pellets? Now, in addition to collecting all of the items that were at the different placards, did you also sift through all of the trash that you found in the theater?
Yes.
Could I have 291 and 292, please? As part of sifting through the trash, did you find any items that were related to firearms?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 291 and 292. Do you recognize these items?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
There is bullet fragments and shot pellets.
Are these items that you collected in the theater in July of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibits 291 and 292.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-291 and 292 are admitted.
Now, you indicated that you had previously searched the roof of the theater, and did you do that from going outside on the top of the roof?
Correct.
Did you also try to look at the ceiling from inside the theater?
Yes.
And when did you do that, and why did you do that?
I believe that was Monday, and we had reports that shots may have been fired into the ceiling, so we were trying to find evidence to indicate yes or no if that occurred.
Were you successful in searching?
The idea was to go to the top of the ceiling, and it was a drop-down ceiling. We were going to push one of the tiles up and look across the rest of the theater, and if there was any damage in those tiles, we would see the light going through those holes or the damage. The ceiling was very tall, so we found a genie lift, an electric lift that we could push into the theater and down the hallway, so it was not very wide, and it had to go very high up, so it was not very stable. And then when we got to the top, we discovered that pushing the tile up, there was a very thick layer of insulation, so our idea of looking up and looking across the ceiling was not going to work. But while I was up there, I did visually examine best I could from that location, and I did not see any damage, but it was unsafe to try and move the lift and continually look in the ceiling any further.
While you were up in the genie lift, did you take any photographs?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2587 and 2583. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
Are those ones that you took when you were up in the genie bucket on July 23rd, Monday?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 2583 and 2587.
Any objection? No objection. Without objection, P-TR-2583 and 2587 are admitted and may be published.
Could I have 2583, please? Was this, tell us what we're looking at in here and what all the little white things are.
The little white things are the placards that you have been seeing in photographs.
And is this taken from the lift? If you were on the left side of the theater facing the screen would be to the left side of the photograph?
Yes, the screen is removed and it's laying on the ground, but that is what you were looking at in the left side of the image. And the lift is located in the front left corner as if you're facing the screen. And we're looking into the theater.
Could I have 2587, please? Where is this photograph taken from? What's the vantage point?
This is again as if we're looking at the screen. We're on the left side at the very front of the theater, and I'm in the bucket lift looking out into the theater.
Were you asked to collect a couple of seats from the theater?
Yes.
What row and what seats are those?
It was row 8, seat 18 and 19. Row 8 is the first row in the stadium-style seating. So it's the first row that begins to elevate in this image. And seats 18 and 19 are going to be on the left side. There's a railing in front of them.
Could you show us on the model where row 8, seat 18 and 19 are?
This first row in the elevated seating is row 8. We started counting, if you remember, from the left side. So this is 1. This seat is 20. So seats 19 and 18 are going to be these two seats here.
did you physically take the seats out of the theater?
Yes.
And what we've moved forward here, are these in fact the theater seats?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 645.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-645 is admitted.
And if we could take off the covers.
Back it up a little bit, Ms. Pearson, please.
And if you could tell us, there are a number of markers on these seats. Do you know what those are?
Yes, these are markings when they went through and were marking any kind of potential bullet evidence. Impacts, perforations, penetrations.
Now, did you also retrieve evidence from these seats?
Yes.
And what did you get out of the seats?
We removed, well, I personally removed a spent bullet and a quarter that the bullet impacted inside the seat.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 646, sorry. And do you recognize this item?
Yes. This is the quarter that was in seat 18. It was in the seat bottom down here, inside.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 646.
Is there any objection? Without objection, it is admitted.
Your Honor, could I, well, I would like to publish my exhibits ultimately, but in the meantime, I guess could you explain what you observe about this quarter?
So the quarter has an impact mark in it, and when I lined up the bullet next to the quarter, they fit together.
Sustained.
Could we publish the quarter on the Elmo?
Do you need the...
Yeah. Can you explain to us what we see in this photograph, or what we see in this, what we see of the quarter when it's under the Elmo, when it's magnified? If you could point out, and you may need to use the pointer to try to explain also what you're seeing there.
You're looking at a quarter. It's actually one of the state quarters, so I'm sure you're all familiar with that. There's some deformation on the edge of the quarter, and right in this area there's an impact mark, so the quarter is dented inward.
Thank you. Could I have People's Exhibits, you can take a seat again, 298, 299, 300, and 301. I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 298, 299, 300, and 301.
Prosecution is finished with the exhibit that's in the courtroom. I'd ask that it be removed or covered.
Ms. Pearson?
Your Honor, I don't have any more specific questions with regard to these particular seats.
Okay. So do you want to cover them then?
That's fine.
Okay.
And I'm also going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 3195, 3197, and 3279. Do you recognize all of these items as well as the photographs that I've handed you?
Yes.
Are these items that you collected from the theater and photographs that depict these items?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 298 through 301 and People's Exhibits 3195 and 3197.
Ms. Pearson, I also showed that you approached with 2279. Did I write that wrong?
I think it was 3279, Your Honor.
3279?
Just now, the photographs are 3195 and 3197, I believe. Is that correct?
You also
Oh,
gave
and a
me
third one?
3279.
I'm sorry, what's the third one?
3279.
Okay.
All right, any objection to those exhibits, Ms. Spengler? No objection. Without objection, P-TR-298 through 301 inclusive are admitted, and P-TR-3195, 3197, and 3279 are all admitted and may be published.
Could I have 3195, please? What are we looking at here?
We are looking at a seat in the theater. It's marked as row 10, seat 8, and there's a lot of holes that are circled with magic marker in the image.
If, looking at People's Exhibit 298, how does 298 and 299 relate to what we're seeing in this photograph?
Exhibit 298 is the fabric. It's been removed from the seat, but it is the fabric that is depicted in the photograph.
And Exhibit 299?
Exhibit 299 is 59 shot pellets that when I removed the fabric and the cushioning in the seat back, there was a piece of wood. These were lodged in the wood of the seat.
Could you show us where row 10, seat 8 is on the model?
So again, this first row in the elevated seating is 8. So we have 8, 9, and 10. And then we counted from left to right as if we were facing the screen. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is row 10, seat 8.
You can take a seat again. Could I have 3197, please? Is this photograph a close-up of that same material?
Correct.
Could I have People's Exhibit 3279, please? What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is another seat containing damage. It is row 11, seat 15.
And could you look at People's Exhibits 300 and 301, and how do they relate to this photograph?
Exhibit 300 is the fabric removed from the seat. Exhibit 301 is 28 shot pellets removed from that seat.
Could you also show us on the model where this seat is?
So it's row 11, seat 15. This is row 8, 9, 10, 11, and we go 15 across. So that is row 11, seat 15.
Thank you. I don't have any additional questions for you.
Ms. Spengler, do you have cross-examination?
No.
All right, and the jury appears to have a couple of questions, and so give us a moment, please. Would counsel please Okay, sir, the jury has submitted some questions, and based on the rules of law and other applicable rules of evidence, I have found that some of these are appropriate, and so I am going to ask the questions now. First, why weren't the rows outside of the aisles numbered?
We did that because we thought it might be a little confusing because we numbered the first row was the row closest to the screen. So as we moved back, we then had the rows on this side that were outside that nice line, outside the aisle. Had we started numbering with them, then we thought to ourselves, well, do we go 1, 2, and then go back down to row 1 and call that seat 3 and go across? So then the first several rows would be started at an odd number. So we started those with 1, and as we worked up, we just stuck with the aisle and continued with those as 1. And then the seats on the aisle, once we reached those, I believe those were rows 16 is about where those started. Then we just called those north of the aisle or on the other side of the theater south of the aisle.
The next question is, how many empty magazines did you process at the scene?
I did not process any empty magazines. If you are referring to the loaded magazines, those were processed later back at the lab.
The next question is, what was the brand of the shotgun set forth as People's Exhibit number 2272?
I believe it was a Remington 870 Tactical.
The next question is, what brand of rifle were the gun magazines in People's Exhibit 2771 used in, if you know? You can't speculate, but if you know.
The magazines themselves, what brand were those?
No, what brand of rifle were the gun magazines in People's Exhibit 2771 used in?
I don't think I understand the question. Are we talking about the rifle or the gun magazines?
That's okay, we'll skip it.
Okay.
The next question is, what type of firearm is the magazine found in placard number 90 used in, if you know?
I would need a refresher on what was at placard 90, which
Okay.
magazine that was.
All right, any follow-up questions based on those questions, Ms. Pearson?
If placard 90 was the drum magazine, what kind of firearm is a drum magazine used in?
The drum magazine is usually used in a rifle.
Any follow-up questions, Ms. Spengler? No. All right, sir, thank you. Ms. Pearson, may he be released from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection? No objection. All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Members of the jury, it's almost 12:20, so we're going to go ahead and take our lunch break at this time. The people have requested to publish the exhibits that were admitted this morning, at least some of them, and I have granted that request, but we're going to take our lunch break first, and so I will allow publication of the exhibits after the lunch hour, okay? Please keep in mind that my advisements apply during the lunch break, and all of them are mandatory and extremely important. Have a good lunch, and I'll see you back here in an hour and a half. Thank you. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. Is there anything that we need to talk about at this time on behalf of the people?
Very briefly, Judge, I think
Everyone may be seated, by the way. Go ahead, Mr. Edson.
Judge, just briefly, I think for the prosecution, I'm going to be one that's going to require some exhibits coming back out. And just, I want to follow the court's best practices here. Do you want me to announce it before the next break? Do you want me to contact your bailiffs? How do you want me to do that?
Just talk to my staff
Thank you,
before
Judge.
the next break. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, anything on behalf of the defense, Ms. Spengler? No. Did you have something, Ms. Teach McGuire? Yes. All right, anything else? Okay, have a good lunch, folks. The court will be in recess.